Hi everyone, this is Jessica L'Whor here, and I'm here with Ask a L'Whor. I have been really bad about this, trying to transition into my life here in Denver, and I apologize that it's been so long since I've done an Ask a L'Whor, and so I'm going to try and get back to it and keep up with it, so continue to subscribe and ask those questions. Even while in this absence, my subscribers have gone up, and you all have been very vocal, which has been fantastic. I'm sitting here getting ready to leave in just a hot second for Sex Sells Saturday, which is produced and hosted by myself. We have special guest Eva Destruction all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, so I'm very excited to head out to the show. It tracks tonight. The show starts at 10. Moving into questions. So this is Ask a L'Whor number 13. 13. 13. Woohoo! Ask L'Whor number 13. And the first question I have is, any tips for someone transitioning from more SFX horror side of makeup into more glamorous look? I can manage a more natural face, but the glamorous drag face is giving me trouble, especially drawing my brows, and loved your look at Drag Nation Pride Week. Top 3 favorite looks of all time. Oh, thanks. So that was my Cracked Octopussy look, which was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. Transitioning into a more of a glamorous look, I would honestly start to experiment with softer makeup while having really intense kind of a pulled back face. So when I think of doing a glamorous look, I almost wait to do any kind of aspect of my brows until the end, and I learned that a lot from different YouTube videos, so I would definitely Google search and kind of find out different pieces that you like. When I think of glamorous makeup, I think of pageants, and I think of kind of that soft crease with a really sharp brow, but it's all kind of really harsh contour back. Everything's really sharp and precise, and so I just start really experimenting with more warm colors rather than intense horror side of horror colors, if that makes sense. I'd also play with a lot of different browns and blushes, and with cutting your face a little bit more, and to get that pulled back look. Some people interpret glamorous a little bit differently. I think of glamorous kind of like that old school drag, that really intense like pageantry system kind of drag makeup, and so that might be something to Google or to YouTube a lot to kind of get different ideas of what might work for you, and really try and stay away from anything that might interest you, and you're starting to do your makeup and you're like, oh, that looks really like horror makeup or really kind of creepy or anything like that. Steer clear of that and try not to give in to that. So you gotta kind of sit down and force yourself to go a little bit more glamorous. That was a great question. Next time, why are some guys so shallow? They love when I'm dolled up, but can care less when I'm not, and get offended if I won't do anything while I'm dolled up. Brah, my makeup took too long to do it. To get messed up during a blowjob. Well, that's very true. And I think a lot of it is, I don't think it's necessarily being shallow. I think a lot of it has to do with preference. And so, from what I'm getting from your little story is that they only want you when you're dolled up. Well, I think that could play a lot into fantasy. That could play a lot into sexual preferences and what they're looking for in a partner that they're sexually active with. I don't necessarily think it comes down to being shallow. I would find a guy that or kind of experiment with, are they really interested in you as a person, or are they interested in you as a sexual object? And so I don't necessarily think that it has to do with shallow, although I definitely understand where you're coming from and where that can be interpreted with. But I would ask those questions with whoever your partner is or whoever you're trying to be sexually active with, and also maybe come up with a compromise so that maybe you don't have to necessarily give head while you're in full face, which is never fun. Like, who would want to do that? I agree with you. I don't want to mess up my makeup, let alone it just seems like that's not my preference. And so having that conversation, being very vocal about it, I think are key things to making your next future sexual partners or even long-term relationship partners more successful. Next one is, who would win in a fatal four-way street fight between Beyonce, Rihanna, Taylor Swift, and Clay Aiken? Okay, I can tell you right now that Clay Aiken would be the first one to die, because Clay Aiken would be like, "Oh, I'm rough. I'm a man. I can beat the shit out of." He has an accent too. "I can beat the shit out of all you women because I'm a big, strong man." I don't know. That just kind of gives me what his personality might be like, and he would be the first to get destroyed. Next would be Taylor Swift. She would be that like, "Oh no, I just want to keep the peace. Like, oh, let's not fight. Let's stay separate and just go out for coffee and we'll talk about our feelings." And Rihanna would be like, "What the fuck are you talking about? No, you nasty bitch," and then sock her in the face and get all scrappy and destroy her. I think it would really come down to Beyonce and Rihanna. Honestly, I think Rihanna would win overall. I feel like, although I bet you Beyonce has some tricks up her sleeve, I feel like Rihanna would not play. She would give warning. She would let you take a free hit, and then she would just get all scrappy. She would just be like, "Oh, is that all you got? Okay," and then yeah, you wouldn't look pretty afterwards. So in all of those, I think Rihanna would win. Yeah, my next question is, with so many queens out there, who censors who performs? Not that I want to throw shade, but when you comb your wig, tuck that thing in the and learn the words to a song if you're going to have an audience. Honestly, who censors who performs? So I'm guessing like who controls who gets booked. It's really all about, it's kind of like a job. So it's really about who you know. It's really about what you have to offer. And in the long term, it's either the bar owner or the head entertainment manager or whoever hosts the show, whoever produces the show, is completely in charge of the bookings. If you're on bad terms with them, most likely you won't get booked. It doesn't matter how amazing you are. If you do not represent if you don't represent well on social media, or you're at another bar or you talk trash about it or whatever, probably not going to get booked. And so you have to be very cautious because there's always eyes and ears everywhere that you go. Or if you do say something, you have to be willing to have a conversation about it. But you're representing yourself, and in the long term, whoever is in charge of that show is in charge of who books you. That's pretty much it. So stay on good terms with everybody and play nice and be nice in the dressing room and be understanding. If you don't get booked, it's not because they hate you necessarily. It's not because they think you did anything wrong. It can be really offensive to performers, including myself, when you're like, "Oh, why did I get booked?" But then you have a conversation, you take a step back, and you're like, "Well, hey, it's not going to happen every single time. You can't expect that." But if you continuously bring new things to offer and you're on good terms and you're appropriately representing who you are on social media especially, and in person, then you should have no problems getting bookings and have a good time doing it. Those were some really, really great questions. I like that I got to answer a little bit more in depth. They weren't just yes and no. So I'm going to encourage you to continue to ask me any kind of questions that you would like. Comment below on this YouTube video, or just message me personally if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer. Continue to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Find me on Facebook and like my Facebook page, or add me as a friend. Find me on Instagram at @the_L.whor. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye!